Your baby may be doing compensatory movements that's making the torticollis stretches that you're doing with him ineffective. Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm a pediatric physical therapist, and in this video I'm going to teach you to not only be able to identify these compensatory movements, but also to be able to prevent them, to ensure that the stretches that you're doing for your little one are really helping him. Always remember that our stretches for our little ones with torticollis have to be done within an acceptable, safe range for our little one to ensure that we don't hurt them. The first movement that the babies will do is actually the exact same thing that we as adults do if you've ever pulled your neck. And that's, rather than just turning the head all the way over, is we end up turning our entire body. So it looks more like this. So if I've hurt my neck and I can't turn my head all the way back, but I want to look behind me, what I'm going to do is turn my whole body, and now I can look behind me, but I'm not actually turning my head over towards my shoulder. So with that analogy, it's important to know that while we're as adults trying to turn our head when we pulled our neck that actually physically hurts, the babies don't feel that kind of a pain when they have torticollis. They feel some tightness and some restriction, but they don't feel that actual pain that adults feel actually from pulling their neck. But the compensatory movements are exactly the same. So here are some situations where parents will feel their baby's trying to turn their whole body rather than just their head. So if you're holding your baby at your shoulder and say in this situation the baby has difficulty turning her head to the right side, what she's going to try to do is turn the head as much as she can, and then what she would do is swing her right shoulder out like this so that her head doesn't have to turn all the way over towards her shoulder there. So what I do in these situations, if I'm really working on that neck rotation, is so when the baby starts looking out towards her right side, I have my supportive hand right on the back of her right shoulder. I'm not gonna let her swing that shoulder out like that. So then her trunk stays nice and straight. So in order to look to her right side, all she's able to do is work on that neck rotation. If your baby's sitting in your lap and you're trying to get her to look over to the left side in this case, and you have a toy over here trying to get her attention, so what you will see is our babies will try to turn their head as much as they can towards the left, and then what they would do is start to turn their right shoulder over so that the whole body goes, and now she can look towards the toy, but she's not isolating her neck rotation, turning over towards her shoulder. So what I'll do in these situations is I'll come under her arm and just hold the front of her chest there in place so that her trunk stays nice and straight, so that as she starts looking towards the toy over here, even if she starts to try to turn her trunk a little bit, I'm just blocking that so she can really isolate the turning of her head, and she's gonna have to go a little bit further and get a little bit more of a stretch in order to look at the toy. If we're gonna work on neck rotation on the floor, what I'm gonna do is have the toy to the side that her neck is tight on, but I'm just gonna put some nice gentle pressure on her chest on the opposite side to prevent it from coming up and over. So if she's gonna turn her head towards her left side like this, again, what she would want to do is to bring that right shoulder up and over to make it easier to look at the toy. So as she starts to turn her head, I'm just gonna have my hand here just blocking her chest from coming up and over so she can really isolate that neck rotation and get a really good stretch there. The next compensatory movement that babies do, and that again adults do also if we have a tight neck, is that if I want to look at that doorknob that's behind me but my neck is tight, what I can do is to turn my head a little bit, and then rather than continuing to just try to get my chin looking over my shoulder in order to see the doorknob, what I can do is lift my chin up, extend my neck, and now I can see the doorknob. I couldn't see it until I lifted my chin up like that. So parents of babies with torticollis will see this all the time. They'll see it when their babies are on the floor, if the babies are in a chair, in a high chair, sitting in their lap. You'll see that chin come up. When we're really looking for, if we're getting true neck rotation and trying to get a stretch, we want that chin going towards the shoulder. If that chin starts to come up like this, we're not stretching the muscles that are tight because the babies are finding ways to compensate. And the most effective way that I found in order to help prevent babies from lifting their chin up when they're looking for something is whatever we're using to motivate them to turn their head towards their non-preferred side is to make sure we have it at like shoulder level. If it's above shoulder level, the kids are going to naturally start to look up, to look towards it. But if it's at shoulder level, you're really encouraging the babies to turn their head and look straight at it right over the shoulder, and then you're getting that true neck rotation there. Here's what it looks like. So if the baby's sitting in my lap and I want to use a wiggle rattle here to get her attention, I'm going to make sure I'm shaking it at her shoulder level or even just a little bit below his line, but not up here. If it's up here, she's gonna naturally look up like that, and now your chin is coming up away from the shoulder. If it's right at shoulder level, we got a much better chance of getting some nice isolated neck turning there. So it's the same thing if our baby's laying flat on her back on the floor. If we're gonna use a toy at shoulder level here, not up above her head, but at shoulder level to help isolate that turning. And then also if you're gonna use your own face, which is of course one of the biggest motivators for the babies, you can just be playing, and when you come over to the side to have her look towards you, just pretend that she's turning her head here. Again, you're at shoulder level. Where it's really easy to make ourselves come up here, well above her shoulder level. That's gonna make her extend her head. So if I'm just playing with her, coming over, making sure my eyes are at shoulder level, that really help isolate that neck rotation for her. And the third compensatory movement that I see with the little ones with torticollis is that when they're having some difficulty turning their head to the side, what they can do is kind of hike their shoulders up a little bit in order to get their head to turn a little bit more. Raising the shoulders puts those muscles on a little bit more slack and gives them a little bit of extra range. But again, then we're not truly stretching those muscles if the kids are hiking their shoulders up. Blocking the shoulder hiking is a little bit more challenging for parents than compared to the other compensatory movements. But what I try to do is once your baby's shoulders are in a nice neutral position before she starts to turn her head, I just put my arm right around my hand around her upper arm area. And the most important is that we do not pull her shoulder down. We do not pull her arm down. We are never pulling. I'm just trying to keep it in place right there. So as she starts to move her head, my hand is right here, basically just trying to cue her arm and her shoulder to just stay in that position. So here's what it looks like. So if this baby does have a tendency to hike her shoulder up, what I'm gonna do is have a toy, again, at shoulder level, and then as she starts to turn her head over to the side, I'm just gonna hold my arm here and just trying to keep her shoulder in a nice neutral position, and hopefully she doesn't hike it up like that. Once again, we are not pulling on the shoulder. We are not pulling on the arm. Literally, I'm just trying to keep it in the place that it's already at here so she can really isolate her neck turning and really get a nice stretch on those muscles. When the families that I've worked with have been able to identify these compensatory movements and then figure out how to really help their babies isolate that neck turning, they've seen huge progress with their babies, and I hope you do too. Take care, have a great day.